Hey everyone, welcome back to the District 3 podcast. This is Irvin. Joining us today as a special co-host, we have our good friend, artist / podcaster / a lot of things, Jasper Logan. Thank you for joining us today, Jasper. How are you?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me.
And off the top, Jasper, I wanted to talk about that text that you sent me the other day. Yeah. You said, you were asking me like, man, all this time, I feel like I've been mispronouncing your name.
I was listening to you guys' recent podcast, and you pronounced your name Irving. And I was like, man, I've been pronouncing his name wrong this whole time. And I just felt bad. Like, I heard this, and I always feel bad, like, pronouncing people's name wrong, because I heard, like, I heard this, I think it was either in a movie or a TV show, and it was like someone talking to a kid who had a difficult name that's for people to pronounce, and they try to encourage him by saying, like, look, if the world could pronounce all of these, like, Russian names or whatever names, like Lashkofli or whatever, it's like, then if we can learn to pronounce those, we can learn to pronounce, like, your name. And it's like, oh yeah, like, we can give people the just due of learning to pronounce their name if we can pronounce, like, all these scientists and whatever people that come from different places. Like, we can just learn to pronounce their name. So
what's interesting though is that I felt that you've already pronounced my name correctly.
That makes me feel good,
because I think you say Irving. Because the way that you just said Irvin right now, it doesn't sound normal to me coming from you. So I feel like you were probably pronouncing it correctly, but I appreciate you thinking about that.
Of course,
because
man.
It's important, and I'm excited to talk about it with our guests too. Because one of our two guests today, he was the person that actually inspired me to start using it more.
Oh wow!
Start changing, going from Irvin, which I've used my entire life, to the way that my mom intended it for it to be pronounced, which is Irvin.
Yeah.
But yeah, I appreciate you being here too. By this time this episode comes out, you would have already performed on August 31st.
That's right.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, Bangin' a Gang is happening August 31st. I'm excited. I haven't performed in, I think my last performance was at the Momentary, like, back in January. And so with having my youngest daughter in November last year, I've kind of been, like, just taking like some time off and, like, not having much opportunities and time to, like, go out and perform as much. And so I'm excited to step back on the stage and, like, see people and, like, have fun and all that good stuff. And
for those that don't know, you're the partner of our co-host, Elena Ramirez.
That's right.
And y'all went to go watch Hamilton the other day. How was that? How was that?
We did. I've seen Hamilton. This was my second time seeing it. I saw it first in Chicago. And I was happy when I saw it the first time because I made sure not to listen to any of the songs before. And so, like, I went into it, like, completely fresh. And Elena did the same thing this time. She made sure she didn't listen to anything, and she hasn't this whole time. I'm like, man, I don't know how you went so long without listening to any of the Hamilton stuff, because it's so
been like,
good.
What, like 7 years?
It's been a long time.
Yeah.
But when I went to see it,
any favorite songs that you have
after
seeing it?
All of them. Like,
I
like the Wait For It song. I like the Dear Theodosia song. And then, I mean, these things, they make me cry. Like, I like it because it makes me cry because it's, like, so emotional. Like, I mean, I'm a very musical person. And so, like, I love the, like the way that chord strikes and things like there's this term, like, called frisson, which is, like, the feeling that you get when you listen to music and it gives you goosebumps. That happens to me throughout the entire play of Hamilton. And so when Elena and I saw it the other day, she enjoyed it. She was crying. She was like, oh, like, I see, she left going, like, I see why people enjoy this play so much. So
it makes so much sense. I tried watching it on Disney, and I don't think it hits the same on Disney.
It's not the same.
I think you got to see it in person. I think
you definitely got to see it in person.
So I'm glad that you had that experience. Sounds like really cool. So maybe I might try to check it out. Has it already? Is it still going to be here for a while?
I think so. I think they have one more week left, I think.
Okie dokie. I'll see if I can convince Myra to go watch it. Yeah. But excited about today's episode. We have two folks here from the Family Network, which is a nonprofit local here. Joining us is first René Manjarrez, who is a family support specialist at Fatherhood Fire coordinator as well, and Whitney Fantinel, who is the development coordinator also for the Family Network. Thank you both for joining us today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.
And we'll start off with you, René, because we kind of were already talking a little bit about you specifically. I think it was like 2 years ago. We were sitting down outside of downtown Springdale, kind of like by, I forgot what's that park called? Turnbow Park. And you brought it up out of nowhere. I think you were like, hey, like, I want to make sure that like going forward, if y'all can pronounce my name under René instead of René. And I feel like I do feel kind of bad because I do feel like I took your spotlight right away because I was like, me too. I was like, I was like, me too. I don't want to go by Irvin anymore. I want to go by Irvin. Yeah. You know? And I remember Mayra was like, dude, like let him. He's talking about something important to him. Why you gotta like also bring yourself up? But I had been thinking about it for a while, and I didn't really think about like just telling friends like, hey, like I kind of want you to pronounce my name Irvin the way my mom intended it to be. Can you talk about your inspiration for that, for the pronunciation, kind of using also that?
Absolutely. I think that also this conversation will tie into what we'll talk about later, which is fatherhood and loving your kiddos lovingly. But so I've grown up, in the U.S. since I was 4 years old. My name was given to me by my aunt in Mexico after a famous soccer player that, ironically, I don't really watch soccer. So. But it was given to me, and I immigrated to the U.S. when I was 4, like I said. So I grew up here hearing my name being pronounced René. And here in the U.S., the René is a very common female name. And there's a multitude of pronunciations and a multitude of spellings out there. And so since I grew up in kindergarten all the way up into about college is when I finally had it. I got a lot of bullying when I was in elementary school, junior high. Kids are pretty vicious sometimes. And so being bullied for my name and why do you have a girl's name and all these other things. And so for me, it's always been a struggle of how to hide it, how to just minimize it. When a sub would come up, that's like anxiety inducing, right? Because like, God, I had finally gotten used to my teacher butchering my name, and now here comes another one to re-butcher it and rehash everything out. And so for many years, I was just like, whatever, let's just ignore it. It's something that I can't change. I can't make the Anglo-Saxon tongue roll any easier than I want. So for a very long time, I suppressed it and said, you know what, it is what it is. I'm going to move through the world the way that it is intended to be, and I'm here, whatever. But until after I graduated college, I was telling Irving that I was watching Orange is the New Black. Yep. And there's an actress in there that said similar words to what you were speaking.
Actually, maybe
that was probably her.
That's where I made.
That's probably it.
Come on.
Yeah, she was like, hey, if they can know, all these Russian composers and Tchaikovsky and all these other things, then like, why can't they say my name and your name properly? And I was like, you know what, you are absolutely correct. Yep. If they can say all these different names that are super foreign, Descartes and all these other things that they can say my name properly. And so for me, it started like that, like everybody's going to have to say it right. But the reason why I think I told Irving and my friends, specifically Latino friends, was like, because they were also calling me René. And I know that their tongues can move. And so that's where I was like, all right, to my Latino friends, the people that have the ability to call me by the name that my mother intended to have for me, I want you guys to call me that. Yeah. For everybody else, I'll have grace because I've had 20 plus years of hearing it. And so I am not as anal with other non-Spanish speakers, but with Spanish speakers specifically, I'm very anal. Like, hey, I'll call you Jesus. I won't call you Jesus. I'll call you Irving, and I won't call you Irving if you call me René. And so I think that's just a mutual understanding of respect. And but yeah, that's. And
I think like I've still like here and there once in a while I'll accidentally say René, and I'll correct myself. So you've given us grace too.
Yeah, and sure I mean, it's
pronounce it correctly.
Something that slips out. It's not like I expect it to be right every single time, but I also do hope that you guys hold yourself accountable to that a little bit. But
that makes sense.
Where did this is funny because I was just kind of having this conversation with my sister, who's a therapist. And we were talking about these sort of like experiences of, you sort of like training yourself to be more authentically you, and then like taking advantage of those opportunities and giving yourself these chances to be more authentically you. Like, and I was asking her, and I want to ask you, like, where did that come from? Like, and at what point did you develop that? Did you go, you know what? Like, no, I'm gonna learn how to do this, and this is gonna teach me how to be more authentically me and be okay with that.
Yep. I think it started for me like after college, after leaving the my parental home, leaving that kind of umbrella of living under my parents' wing, living in the same town that I grew up in, going to high school, college, everything. So for me, the time that I left was a time that I realized that it's now or never.
Yeah.
It's either I decide that this is what I want to be called for the rest of my 30 years, hopefully, or I shut up and just take it because I haven't said anything till this date. And so for me, it was either now or never. And it was that kind of bug that had been growing and brewing in me since I was, in college, kind of learning a little bit more about myself. And it's about that, learning how to give yourself respect as well. Yeah. And so I think that was a big piece of it for sure.
That's real.
And Whitney, we won't say the neighborhood, but René told me that you live pretty close to me. That you live a few houses away from me.
I counted. We're 3 houses.
3 houses
down.
away. Oh, wow. Wow. And I feel like we've been like friends on social media for a while now, right? I think it's for a few years.
I remember, like our paths were always just about to cross. Like I would comment on something of yours, or like I would see Jackson Ignite, for example. You guys have crossed paths before and kind of worked together.
His mom was my teacher.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, Marjay, hello. If
Shout
you're
out,
listening,
Marjay,
I love you.
You love Miss Ignite.
You're a blessing. I'm still making good choices, I promise.
I've been trying to get her on the podcast for like 5 years, and she's like, I get shy, and I'm like, Miss Ignite, come on.
Oh, no.
A lot of your students want to hear from you.
Now we're going to blast it. She needs to be on.
We'll tag her on this clip. We're clipping this. We're tagging her.
Yes. I'm like, what were we even talking about?
We're talking about like crossing paths. We're literally crossing paths because like our houses almost cross paths.
Right,
yeah. But I'm glad you're here. I'm glad to finally put a name to the face.
Yes.
And I think the work that y'all are doing is really important with the Family Network. I've had the opportunity to talk with Audrey. I've had the opportunity to learn more about the work that y'all do, and y'all are doing a lot. For those that don't know, just generally speaking, what does the Family Network do here in Northwest Arkansas?
Yeah, so Family Network has actually been around. We celebrated our 30th anniversary last year. Wow. So, it started out specifically with home visiting. We followed the Healthy Families America model, which is a really amazing, Audrey always says it's the best kept secret, but I hate it being a secret because everyone should know about it. That's how great it is. But, we get referrals for parents, sometimes teen moms, sometimes older, and we kind of meet them where they're at, do that initial assessment and then follow them from prenatal or just after their baby's born to when the child's 3 years old. And what that looks like is anywhere between developmental screenings at the home. If mom doesn't have transportation to get to the pediatrician, we'll provide transportation. I mean, René, you can speak to a little bit more on the home visiting side, as you know, all the program part. But I mean, just this all-encompassing, amazing program that just meets parents where they're at.
So the main goal of Family Network is to support and empower families in the area. And so that's kind of a really whittled down nitty-gritty of it all. But in home visiting, I also do home visiting. It's a really special way to get to impact a family. And I say impact. I don't ever see the impact until many, many, many years later. And so it's a really great way to influence a family, to capacitate them, to advocate for them, to create themselves as the advocate for their family. Yeah. We service a lot of Latino families, a lot of teen moms who are confused, lost, and have no idea how to become a good mom. And so for a very long time, we focused on the mother and child, and those are the clients that have been given to us and referred to us. And of course, we've been happily serving mothers and children here in the area for what Whitney has said now 30 years. And so here recently, in the last 2 years, we've decided that, well, not decided, but we've realized that the gap for services for fathers is missing. Yeah. And so 30 years in the area serving families, but we've only been serving half of the family. And so with my addition to the team, I was brought on to hopefully help and create a program for fathers to feel, to basically create that space for them that we've already created for the mothers and children, so that they feel also comfortable and able to come to us and ask for these resources, right? As men, it's a lot more difficult for us to come and ask for help and to even acknowledge that we need help. And that's kind of 99% of the problem, right? We don't acknowledge that we need the help, and then we stay stagnant and not wanting the help. And so Fatherhood Fire is one of those programs that hopefully is going to create that space for fathers to become a little bit more confident in their skills, and when they're not confident, just the confidence to ask for help, questions, concerns. And so that's kind of in a nutshell what Family Network has been doing for 30 years and what we want to be doing for the next 30 years.
Honestly, I'm super excited to have this conversation with you guys. One, I think that people don't really understand how, like, even particularly healthy families struggle with the adjustment of adding a child, and then and so much so to the point that, like, when you add a child and you realize how difficult it is, you go, am I doing this right? And so, like, the fact that you guys offer these, this support for parents, I think is super incredible. And I'd like to hear, like, if there are any programs or how you guys have been helping families, like, just kind of adjust to the idea of, like, adding this newborn to their families. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Whitney?
Yeah, I can speak from experience. I didn't go through our home visiting program, but I definitely learned a lot just working through Family Network. When I was hired on, I originally started as the program coordinator for the Diaper Collective, our diaper bank here in Northwest Arkansas. And I had no idea. Even with early education experience, I previously worked at this fantastic daycare in Fayetteville, Parkside Play School. Nothing will ever prepare you for bringing home that newborn, settling into reality of, holy cow, whoa, what am I doing? This baby's up and it's 3 a.m. and, I'm trying to breastfeed. Hormones are raging, and I had, Kyle, my wonderful partner at home with me, helping me with baby. We were financially in a pretty good spot, with all things considered. And I still was a mess.
100%.
I was really needing support. My parents weren't really in the picture there. Thankfully, Kyle's parents were fantastic. But, it always is like, it takes a village to raise a kid, and you have all this support through baby shower, and you see, friends and family. And then, at least for me, it was like, okay, baby's home, people pop by for that first few days, first week. Hey, how you doing? Here's a meal. And then it's like, all right.
Good luck.
All bets are off. Yeah. Baby has survived 7 days. You're good. You got it. Like, that was it.
Yeah.
And that's life, and it happens, but just going through those, okay, is baby, 6 months, I don't know, what does a baby do at 6 months? Should it be walking? Should it be reading, a dictionary at this time? It's really interesting that basic support of becoming a parent and figuring out how to raise a child, there's no handbook or anything. So that's where Family Network comes in.
That makes sense.
And that's your support person. You're not going to a class when you do home visiting. That parent educator is coming to you. They're sitting down with your baby with toys, saying, hey, is baby crawling? No? Okay, let's start practicing that. This is where let's put some blocks a little bit ahead, making sure that baby's going to hit those milestones, and also the emotional aspect of these families can come and say, oh my gosh, I just don't know what to do. Baby's fussy. I've tried everything. I just need a second. It's like, okay, let's walk through how to get through those emotions so that it doesn't turn into a bad situation for either of you.
I imagine that even the simple fact of having someone come in and be like, hey, no, that's actually normal that your baby is crying, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's like, oh, okay, I'm not doing this wrong. So like, even like providing that sort of care from 1 to 3, I think is phenomenal.
Yeah.
And what do you think are for the Fatherhood Fire program, what have been some of the biggest barriers for the fathers that have been coming into the program, if you see any that y'all have been able to kind of assist them with?
Well, wait, before we get to that, I want to ask too, how did the fire program, the men fire program start, and like, what was that birthed out of? Because like, I mean, when you look at like studies and like everything that's like kind of studies like leading to like what went wrong with children developmentally, like it kind of all points back to like if the father was home and healthy or not, and so like I'm curious, like where did that program come from and what was the intention going in?
Right. So So we hear a lot about women's programs. We know about DHS, we know about WIC, we know about all these other programs that specifically help the mother, or targeted towards the mother, right? Women, infant, children. I mean, even though that a father can go pick up WIC, I mean, it doesn't say father, infant, child. It says women, infant, child. And so all these programs exist already. So the Office of Children's, the federal government provides a grant to UAMS, the Arkansas Medical Science School here. And so they then give us, they've created partners with us. And so they've created partners with other organizations here in the community. And so they are giving us the funding to provide these courses to our specific population. And so we obviously noticed that, like I said, we've been here for 30 years. We've been working with mother and children. The amount of fathers that are involved in these home visits is very minimal and very small, obviously because the fathers are out working. They are the providers. And we've had to work against all these other cultural things that we need to reach these fathers. And so we have now been trying to see about those barriers and what is stopping them from coming to us. How do we override those barriers? How do we break them apart? How do we dismantle them so that they are able to receive this information? A lot of it, like you were saying, is just normalizing that everything that they're doing is okay and they're just trying their best, right? And so from the very beginning, it was something that we knew we wanted to do. It's just now recently, with the help of UAMS and the grant that they've been given, we are able to operate. And so we're able to provide these courses to the parents. Yeah.
That's cool. And, you know, with fathers, like, particularly, I feel like it's difficult. Like, and as a father, like, sometimes, like, I struggle with, like, where do I fit in? You know, especially in those early ages when the baby is really attached to mom because of breastfeeding and all that stuff. And it's like, okay, how do I help? What do I do? You know, and so, like, how does the FIRE program sort of help men and fathers sort of figure that aspect out?
Right. And so that's a really good point, right? Because from the very beginning, at least for the Latino community, we are talking about the mother is in the birthing room, and sometimes culturally we don't even allow the father to be present. Or we'll say, you know, this is a women's business. And so we have to dismantle all those things from the beginning, because that initially separates the father directly from the birthing process. And that's where the separation starts, right? So if we are able to capacitate the fathers with information about their ability to help in that moment, right? Obviously, they aren't going to be able to feel the contractions. They aren't going to be able to feel the pain and the stress of it all. We experience it in a different way. But how do we support the mother in that situation? And how are we contributing to the child's health in this moment, right? By the father being there present, you're helping the mother relax, cope, calm down. And then that all gets transmitted to the child, right? I mean, she's still attached to the baby. And so until the child comes out and they those crucial moments of skin-to-skin contact, if the father doesn't have those, the father and the child don't have the oxytocin rush, and they don't have that connection that is needed, right? That's called secured attachment.
Yep.
And so if the father doesn't have that secure attachment from a very early age or early on in the child's life, it is way more difficult for that father to see the child as their own, to feel like that love, that connection. I'm sure you know that love that you don't even know where it came from, but all of a sudden it was there and you knew where to put it. Some fathers don't know where to put it.
100%.
And some fathers don't even know that they can show it.
Yeah.
And so these courses are about talking about you are the man of the house, and what does that mean? Everything that you do starts with yourself, right? Communication breaks down, starts with the man. If you start blaming others and you start going into situations where, me and my wife aren't communicating well, and you're blaming her initially from everything, nothing gets solved.
Yeah.
If we look at the problem as something that you've created and your solutions, you go into it mentally thinking about solutions instead of you're the problem, right?
Yeah.
And so we talk about basic, right, how to communicate, how to do a better communication with yourself first, and then how to help others. We talk about emotions, on how to deal with your emotions, it's okay to cry.
Yeah.
Especially for Latino men in general, we're told that we can't express our emotions. We aren't allowed to cry. We aren't allowed to feel. And I heard you in just a couple of minutes that we've been here, you've talked about these things, that you've done yourself. And so that's admirable, right? That takes guts to say that, I have feelings and I process them.
I ain't grow up like that though.
Right. But the beauty is that now as adults, those new parents, me becoming a parent soon, I know what I want for my kid.
100%.
And now I know that I can go to this program and we can sit down and talk about avenues and ways that I can attack the problem.
Jasper, as a 2-time dad yourself, are there any other things that you could think of that you wish you would have gotten like guidance from, whether it be in a nonprofit organization or would it be another parental figure that you could think of?
Yeah, 100%. I think one is fully knowing and understanding how important I am in the whole child relationship, and the whole because as a dad, it's easy, especially in those early ages, it's easy to think that mom is the most important, because the baby is mostly attached to them. And it's hard to find, to get that sort of and feel that sort of importance in yourself and be like, no, wait, I'm actually important. And so I think learning, and which I've been able to do recently, learn okay, wait, no, my relationship with my daughters is actually very important, because out of this relationship, if it's not done correctly, so many things could go wrong. Yep. And so learning that, and then I think also having more support from other men in the same stage of life, who are figuring out, even if it's just for that simple fact of hey, nah, this is normal, actually, as a dad,
okay.
And because you're right, most of the content surrounding children and parenting is mother centered, and so more of that, more of normalizing what does it look like to be a healthy dad and to be surrounded by other healthy dads and to do this well. And then I would add too, the partner, the relating to your partner during this time aspect. I was listening to this guy the other day, this therapist. And he was saying, he got asked if he would want to have another kid. And he was like, I love my 2 kids right now, but obviously when you have kids, it sort of keeps you away from the person that you want to spend the rest of your life with, And so tools and and ways of how to sort of keep and better that partnership while you do have while you have those kids around, because that's another. I mean, even in the Black community, we struggle with maintaining partner relationship, especially after kids. And so those things, I think,
and
things that I wish I knew.
Bringing an importance to it, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes we don't give it an importance,
100%.
or we just forget about it. And this is the normal situation that happens when kids come.
Yeah,
the parents separate a little bit more.
Yes,
it doesn't have to be that.
Doesn't
way,
have
right?
to be. Yeah, that's a perfect way. Emphasizing the importance or valuing the importance of that relationship, because that's also a key determining factor of how kids turn out too, is if if the parents aren't together anymore, that is a very like traumatic experience. No
that
matter
colors
how
their world for the rest of their
100%.
Yeah, and so you made a really good point where you were talking about learning how to even be of importance to your daughters, right? Like, yeah, of course, you as the father are the future role model for what they'll be looking for in their partner, right? And the same thing with your kiddo, your boys, and your mother. Their mother is also going to be something that they look forward to, subconsciously or not. You know, we're going to be looking for those traits, that beauty, the values that they hold. We're going to want to see that in our partner in the future. So if the father is not present, and here comes an ex-boyfriend or a boyfriend of the mom, and they are the only father figure because the person that is present is the father figure, whether you like it or not. And so here comes this bad influence that you have zero control in, and then they are educating your child. And then when you get them, you're like, why is my kid acting out? Well, because you weren't there. And they are looking to someone, anybody who is a father figure in their life, and they're picking on that person, and they're latching on, and they're learning from them. And so do you want them to learn from someone else, or do you want them to learn from you, right? Yeah. And so a lot of it is understanding what things that you value in your own personal life, things that you value together with your partner. So if I value being on time, then that's something that I'm going to strive to give to my children. And so we offer that as a way to enter into discipline, right? If you don't give your children's values, it's going to be really difficult to get them into knowing what's right and wrong, right? And so all these topics are things that we talk about briefly or in depth in these 90-minute courses with the dads.
Has it been difficult to build buy-in with dads?
Very difficult.
Yeah.
It's been very difficult. That's one of the things that we've struggled to since we started in September of last year. So it's almost been a full year now. But yeah, buy-in has been really difficult for a very long time.
Why is that?
Well, because we've been focusing predominantly, or my goal has been predominantly focusing on Latino fathers. And so trying to meet them where they are and trying to get them to me are two different things, right? So I'll meet with the mother and I'll tell her, hey, I've got this program for your husband. And she tells me, yes, this is what I want. This is what my husband needs. The community needs this. Comes the day of inscription. Where's the dad? Nowhere to be found. Why? Because it's important to the mother, but that doesn't mean that it's transmitted to the father. And so for the father, they understand sometimes that their role societally has been told that it is provider number one. And so our Latino fathers sometimes feel like I do that. I do that great. I work.
There's food
weekends,
on the table.
There's food on the table. My kids are fed. Everyone's going to school. I'm winning. I'm done. And so we don't understand that fatherhood is way deeper than that. And so it's really difficult for them to get to us in that regard. And then also we deal with, so HFA, the home visiting side, deals with kiddos from 0 to 3. Fatherhood program deals with kiddos from 0 to 24.
Nice.
And so there's a lot of different topics that we need to talk about in dealing with a preteen versus a 4-year-old, right? And so the parents have a difficult time when they have kiddos that are like 12 or 13, and I meet them and I say, hey, I've got this course for you to come to learn how to become a better dad, how to love your children more kindly. But they'll be like, well, if I take these courses, what am I telling my kids? That I haven't been a good father for the past 12 years? And so it's that understanding that reaching out for help isn't because you've been doing it wrong. It's because you want to better yourself and you want a better outcome for your kiddos. And so that's been one of the two things that has been really difficult, right? Finding them at the location at the time that they are available, because they are the providers at this point in time in their life, and so they work late hours. And so right now, my cohorts have been from 6:30 to 9 p.m. So I meet them. I try to meet them where they are. They work late hours, and so I try to push my day out so that they can come to me. But even that is still difficult, right? Because some work overnight or work 2 shifts, and so it's really impossible to get those needy fathers in to get the information that they need.
What's been some of the information that you've learned over the course of working with the Family Network or doing this program that it sort of clicked for you, that you now be like, all right, I try to use this so it can help people click for them, that so fathers know that, like, hey, this is important and here's why? Like, what's some of the bit of piece of information that it made you go, I see this is important now?
I think that it's been a bunch of little things, right? There's like little pebbles that I collected around the way, and they've added out to be something substantial, which is I think that being available for them, being consistent, even though that they might not come in the hordes that I want them to come. By being consistent, being and creating a safe space for them, they will come. And so I'm hopeful that by me creating a safe space, by creating a location where they can come, where they can ask questions, because that already exists with our other side of the coin, right? It already exists. That we have a center. Our moms know where to come and look for us. They have questions for us, and they come to us. We just want to create that same space for the fathers. Yeah. And so we also know that we need to market to them specifically. Yeah. We need to show that we need to put out more positive images of fathers, specifically Black and brown fathers. You know, we've been told for a very long time, for decades, that Black and brown fathers are deadbeat, don't want to be present, and they don't care about their kids. But what I've found is that that's not the case. They want to be good dads. They just don't know how to. Yeah. And they don't know where to go to. And there's never been a center for them to go to. And so, like I was talking to you, WIC says women, infant, children. That's not for me. Why would I need to go, even though I'm a single dad and I have kiddos and that they need the food and they need the extra help? Just the simple naming it, women, infant, children, that puts barriers for fathers. And so my goal is to dismantle those barriers and hopefully create a safe space where they feel comfortable and able to ask these questions and develop and create a brotherhood, right, between other dads, because that's really important too, right? Having somebody who's been through this, who's had a loving relationship with their kiddos, but maybe didn't have that with their own father, right? Making them the example. And so my goal is that once we start getting more consistent attendees, that I can create what we call lived-in experience participants, right? They're the ones that have gone through their program. They've seen the results. And they would then be the ones that also offer these courses to their own partners, right? Their own community. And so that's the goal, right? To get fathers to help fathers to help fathers to help fathers.
Well, that's cool. We have a lot of dads that listen. And so if people are listening to this right now and they're like, oh, this is something that I'm interested in, what does that process look like for them to start?
Absolutely. So you just go on to familynetwork.com. That is our website, and there should be a self-referral button on that website where you can go into and refer yourself, refer a friend. The fatherhood program, you just have to be someone who has the ability to care for a child that's under the age of 24. So uncles, grandpas, you are all father figures, right? And so if you want to be capacitated, learn a little bit better on how to deal with your own emotions so that you can help your child with his emotions, how to communicate with yourself so that you can communicate better with your partner, your kiddos. Those are all topics that we'll talk about. And of course, we'll also bring in services like, for example, my last cohort, I brought in Ozark Regional Transit, right? So transportation is something that our fathers struggle with, even for their own kiddos. And so they might be the one person who holds a vehicle for the whole house. And so how do we get you guys able to transport yourselves and without having to deal with that issue? So we deal with little things like that, right? We refer them out to like the CCOA of Arkansas, right? So the credit counseling of Arkansas. And so we bring them in to talk about financial literacy, importance of savings and what that looks like. We've brought in UAMS, and they'll give us a mobile clinic while they'll check their blood pressure. And so the program touches a lot of different aspects of fatherhood, from health, right? Being healthy your own self, because if you're not healthy yourself, then how can you be there for your future in 25 years? Right? Because at that point, you'll become a burden to them. You'll have diabetes, you won't have a leg, and now your kids are rushing you to the hospital. Now you've become their burden. And so it starts from the very beginning, right? Your own health, your own regulation of your own emotions and everything else. And so that's where it starts from. So.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay.
What does the curriculum look like? Do y'all make it, or did you get it from somewhere?
No, so the curriculum comes from the federal government.
Okay.
So it comes from the Healthy Marriages and Responsible Fatherhood Administration of Offices of Family and Children.
Okay.
And so that is given to us. And the beautiful thing is that we can then take that curriculum and adjust it and modify it to our clients. And so obviously the curriculum is all in English, and I have to translate it and pass it on in Spanish. And so then with that also, I cut some things out and put some things in. Like I'll bring in services, and there'll be a conversation about money management in the curriculum, but I feel like it's sometimes important for them to hear it from somebody else. So I'll bring in another organization to talk about that. And so the course is designed to be a 12-week course. However, when I say let's meet 12 times once a month, it's too much. Yeah. Even for me, when I say we'll start in September, it won't be over until like mid-December, and they're like, ugh. So I'll have a lot of dropout in the middle of all of that. So what I've done now is that I've condensed it to about 8 courses, and these courses are still touching a lot of important things: communication, discipline, emotions, stuff that I really think that is critical to dads. And then I supplement those with in-services like I talked about. So.
Nice.
And Whitney, can you talk a little bit about the 1 million diapers goal that y'all recently reached?
Ooh, yeah, just transition right in. So the Diaper Collective in Northwest Arkansas, that launched, about 2020, September of 2020, we started operations and partners with Bread of Life Food Pantry in Springdale. And in that amount of time, we have successfully distributed 1 million diapers in September. We started out, I don't even know, like under 10 partner agencies. Now we're at 25, anywhere down from Farmington all the way up to Bentonville, really trying to get that spread on the map so that if someone lives, in Fayetteville, for instance, they don't have to drive all the way to Bentonville to get diapers. But yeah, we're really excited. It's kind of surreal because I started out as the first program coordinator, and just seeing, one, the need of the community, I think, was shocking. The National Diaper Bank Network actually released a study, I believe last year or the year before, that 1 in 2 families struggle from diaper need. I'm just going to pause on that. 1 in 2, so that's 50%. Of families.
What's interesting is that, like, I've been to some community events that were like backpack giveaways, and they had diapers there, and diapers were the first thing that like got taken by the people that were coming. Like, they ran out of diapers quickly, and for me, that's kind of where I was like, oh damn, like I didn't know that. Obviously, it makes sense, right? Because everybody has kids, but I didn't think about how expensive they are, like how many you need, and like just the high need in the community right now as we speak. So I think it's just great work what y'all are doing there.
Yeah, no, and hitting on that, there's no, state assistance. You don't get diapers paid for if you're signed up for SNAP or WIC. There's no support there for diapers. So, and we're the only nationally affiliated diaper bank in Arkansas our entire state.
Okay.
So, the need's there. And it's just really troubling whenever we hear so many stories from partner agencies through our annual surveys that they'll give to people who are receiving diapers. They're facing the issue of, do I put gas in my car to get to work, or do I have enough diapers for my kid? Do I size up? We're always asking for bigger sizes because baby might be in a size 2 or 3, but if you're in that struggle financially of, I just need to make it through the week, I'm going to buy size 5, I'm going to be able to leave baby in that diaper longer because, in my mind, okay, bigger size, it's going to hold more. I can keep them in there 5, 6, 7, 8 hours. That ends up as a public health issue because then baby's facing a whole array, UTIs, yeast infections, just it gets really, really tough. And there's all these things that we don't think about that has a ripple effect because then people are missing work. They're missing their income. Daycares don't provide diapers. If there is one out there that does, please brag about it because you're fantastic and I don't know how you do it. And that's amazing. But, it's the choice to feed your kid, go to work, or provide diapers. It's something no parent should ever have to face. I mean, it's a necessity. And, we hope eventually to do a cloth diaper program because that, of course, is something that will help. It's reusable. You can wash it. We're kind of playing with that idea. But we're just not quite there yet because if we do it, we want to do it right, and have that education piece. And, a lot of families, if you're struggling, if you don't have a washer and dryer in your apartment or in your home, then you got to go do that. So we're trying to figure out, that next step of like, what does laundering services look like? What is that? If we do this program, we have to make sure that we set people up for success. But, yeah, 1 million diapers. Wrap it back to that.
Congratulations, y'all, on that.
Thank
on that
you.
goal. And if anybody wants to, like, do y'all have like a walk-in office, or do people have to reach out to you if they want some sort of assistance from you all, besides, you know, the fatherhood program?
Yeah, so with home visiting, it's very similar. We just have a referral form on our website. And then for diapers, if you are experiencing diaper need and need diapers, we have a list of partner agencies. So we don't give out just to the public, like you can't come to our office and get them, just because the most efficient way that we've found is giving them to partner agencies specifically. Okay. So, you know, if somebody's going to a food pantry, they can also pick up diapers there as well. They're not having to go to 5 different places for 5 different resources. Cool. And then it just helps us manage things a little bit better. But we have a list of all our public places where you can pick up, and gosh, I think just about half of the 25, I think it's 14 partner agencies that are public, and you can pick up diapers. Cool. Yeah, and we're food pantry in Springdale, Bread of Life, spread all over.
Okie dokie. Jasper, any other questions before I ask my closing question?
No, go ahead.
Well, for all our guests, we always ask what you do to take care of your own mental health on a daily basis. So wanted to ask both of you, and people, whenever I bring that question up, they'll be like, oh shoot, I don't take care of myself. What am I going to say? But yeah, what are some things you do to take care of your mental health?
Nose goes.
Oh man, I love being outside when it's appropriate. And this is the heat, it's been really tough. But I work in a box. Literally, like, I don't have a window in my office, and so anytime that I can get out and see the sunlight or see a window, I love the public library. Springdale Public Library, shout out to you. I always go to you. I'm right here in front of the Fayetteville Library. I might go here and hang out afterwards and do some work. I think I am. Nice. I already parked over there. Sorry, library. So yeah, I like being outside. I like listening to music, taking long drives, and just listening to music, kind of aimlessly driving. But yeah, that's how I take care of myself a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, at my most, I go see my therapist. I think that's the most straightforward answer. Shout out, Julie. You're fantastic. But I think if I'm not in a therapy session, spending time with people, because I feel like, especially after kids, my daughter's 3.5, my son is 1.5, I'm still struggling with just like the day-to-day routine of I wake up, I drop my kids off at school, I go to work, I come home, I cook dinner, you get lost in I'm a mom, or I'm an employee for a business. There's no time for me. So when I can feel myself, just slowly falling into that, I'm like, okay, I've got to reach out to my friend, come over, hang out. So honestly, just like, whenever you get into that spot where it just feels like, okay, I'm just disconnected, like, who am I outside of that role? I'm just like, I know how to break this. I'm not going to let me spiral. And just reaching out to friends. And, there's this lost art of doing nothing with others. Gosh, I read an incredible article about it. And we have lost this, I think, with social media and everything, the art of just, hey, I want to come to your house and watch Love Island USA. I want to sit and do nothing, but have someone else present. We don't have to go to the new restaurant on Dixon and post on our social media. Like, no one can know we hung out. Like, I don't want to get ready. I just, for my mental health, want to be in a home with someone else that isn't my children. So
just vibes.
Yeah.
Just vibes.
I love that.
Well, thank you both for sharing that, and thank you all for coming here and talking about y'all's amazing programs. And hopefully people, join the cohort, because by the time this episode comes out,
we'll be starting a cohort October 1st. So if you guys are interested, please, look at our website, sign up, and I'll reach out to you personally, and we'll set that up.
And for everybody listening, that was the end of this episode. I forgot the number, so I'm not going to say the number this time because I forgot. But this is Irvin.
I'm Jasper.
And we're signing off.